Hey everybody, it's Nick. For today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to get sound to play when you place an object in Unity augmented reality. You can see in this example of my basement, I found a plane, and when I tap my phone, it's going to make a sound every time I place an object. So I'm going to go back to Studio Max and look at the object that I've created. I just want to talk a little bit about importing objects so that they get imported correctly. If you look at Unity, you look at the scene, you can see that the Y, the green here, is actually up, and the X and the Z are the ground planes. You can see that the Z is the blue here. That is not what happens by default in Studio Max. If I look at the transforms here, you can see Z is up and X and Y are the plane. I'm not certain why Unity does that, and there's really nothing you can do to change it. You just have to be smart about the way that you export stuff. What I found that works is if you have an object selected, I made a teapot, I collapsed it to a mesh. You can go to Hierarchy tab, go to Effect Pivot. Now you're actually changing the pivot. And what I typically do is I go to Rotate up here, and I'm going to change the X rotate to 90 degrees and just uncheck that. And now if you go onto it, you change the coordinate system or the pivot to local. You can see now that Y is up. You can see it's also a little bit rotated. If that is a issue, you can go ahead on that Y-axis and rotate things, so that they match up the way that you want them to. It's up to you. But just take that into account, before you export your objects. Otherwise, your objects are going to come in rotated. If they look like this, or something, yeah, basically negative 90 like that. That's because you haven't affected the pivot. Okay, so once you do that, you can go ahead and export it as normal, as I've kind of showed multiple times in the videos, and that should get things oriented the way that you want to. You can always check that if you go in. So you go into your prefabs. I'm going to go ahead and throw that teapot in here, and you can see already the teapot element is actually oriented correctly. And if I drag it into the scene, it's oriented right. A lot of the other assets I've been using, that I've been generating actually aren't oriented correctly, and I've had to transform them when I get them into Unity. This is a way to make that work better. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead though. I already put that teapot in. The other thing I need to do to get this prepped is go into the sounds. I'm gonna make a folder under assets. Just go create folder. I made a folder called sounds. In that folder, you're gonna go ahead and drop whatever sound you want to trigger when you like place an object. Okay. And then lastly, I don't have anything yet, so I'm gonna go into my scenes. I'm gonna say new scene, and I'm gonna call this one. Let's see here. I think if I hit save, yeah. So I go to scenes. I'm gonna call this uh, place with sound. Actually, take that back. So I'm gonna start this one instead of a new scene. I'm gonna go to the plane script that I had called plane find in place. This scene, and what this is the one I showed you guys earlier, where I can hang on a minute here. I think that's right. Yeah. So basically, like, there's going to be a plane, and the system's going to determine the plane with Raycast Manager and a placement controller, and then I will be able to place an asset on the screen on the app. I can just place an object. Okay. And actually, I think I want to use this one instead. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, this one's I'll have to rename this one, but this what you're looking for is one with floor placement controller. Okay. That's the script that I'm starting with, and I've made some modifications to it. But basically, the first part of the script looks for a plane, and then you can place an object, and then we're going to add some sound to it. And I've already written that script, so I'm just going to go ahead and put that in the scripts folder. But I just wanted to say like where that comes from. Actually it's here. It's called sound placement controller. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and open that up in Visual Studio, and I'm just going to kind of briefly talk about the way that sound works in Unity. Let's give this a second to call up here. Okay, so everything is the same as in the earlier script with these exceptions. One, there's this element that says require component audio source. Okay, that's going to tell the computer to look for an audio source. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make an audio source and I'm going to give it a name. And in this case, I call it audio clip one. And then I have when the system starts, this is this start, it will place, it'll take whatever's in the audio source from Unity and place it into the variable audio clip. Okay. Then everything else is the same except for when we actually place an object. So when we place an object, we look for the plane, we use the hit pose, we instantiate it, and then we're going to say audio clip one dot play 0, just play from 0, and that's it. So again, we make space for the we're going to call the component audio source. We're going to make a space in memory for an audio source. We are going to load that, and then we're going to play it, and that's it. Okay. If you want more uh, 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 audio clips, you're going to make a copy. You know, you make audio clip 2 or something, and then you're going to make some space here, and you're going to add another, get component audio source audio clip 2. Okay, and then when you call it, you're going to call audio clip 2 when you play it, or whatever you decide you want to name those things. Audio is actually pretty easy to like work with in Unity. I found, so that's actually pretty straight. It's actually more straightforward than a lot of other things. So the way this actually works is you go into your session origin, and instead of where you have this floor placement controller, just go ahead and get rid of that. You're going to go ahead and take that sound placement controller, and you can see that because I required it, it automatically puts in an audio source controller, and you got various functions. We're going to turn off play on awake because we don't want to play it on awake. We want to play it when we call it. We're not going to loop it because we want to stop. You can change different functions, the volume and all that kind of stuff. We don't have to worry about that. The object to spawn in this case is the prefab of the teapot. So that's what's gonna spawn. Okay. And then the last thing is we take our sound, which is this boing sound, boing, and we are going to put that into the container for the audio clip. And if you build that, basically it's the same as the other script where we just place an object, but now we're going to play an audio clip of boing every time the user places an object. Okay. And again, this can get more complicated than it is right now, but that's just basically how that works. I'm going to, again, give you access to the script. This is pretty easy to add to any other script that you'd be working with if you have multiple objects. I feel like it's pretty straightforward. Again, just pay attention to the 4 bits of code that I added here. You can copy paste them from the sound placement controller script that I provide. Other than that, though, I think it should work pretty well. So go ahead and test this with your phone and make sure that it compiles correctly. I do want to call out the fact that any sound that you want to use needs to, it's very helpful if it's a WAV file, a .wav. There's lots of ways to convert this file from other formats. You can convert it with software, or you can convert it with various web-based controllers, web-based converters. But just make sure that you do that. There's some issues with MP3s and the way that they're contained, and other types of files. So just stick with the typical WAV file, and that should be fine. But yeah, so there's that, and yeah, that should work. So just again, it's exactly, if you do all that, you should build exactly what I'm showing in this video. It's very easy to replace that prefab with something else, or some other kind of objects or animated object. But that's how you generate sound on touch. Okay, hope that helps. I will see you around.